Okay, we just have a minute left and we'll start. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome you to this free and virtual agriculture training webinar, Module 2, Seasonings and Herbs Cultivation, organized by the PSCU, Public Service Credit Union Cooperative Society. And my name is Michelle Shah, agricultural engineer with 26 years of technical experience and engineering solutions. During these unprecedented times caused by COVID-19, we, the members of PSCU, are doubling our efforts to engage the public by harnessing digital technologies to bring training and development capacity initiatives to a much wider listening and viewing audience, and to benefit from training opportunities and such as this one today. The house rules of this webinar are as follows. The training session is divided into two parts, and there will be a 5-minute intermission halfway through the presentation. You may keep your videos on during the presentation, and the administrator will, however, mute all persons. During the presentation, you may ask questions by a raise of hand located at the bottom of the screen. The administrator will then inform me that when this happens, and I will then answer your question at that point in time. Another method you may ask questions is by using the chat box, which appears on the right-hand side of your screen when you select the icon. You can also ask questions via the email michelle.shah@pscutt.com, which appears on the contact slide at the end of this presentation. At the end of the presentation, you will also be given a few survey questions to answer, which will come up after the webinar in a brief questionnaire form where you will say what you thought of the training. I encourage all of you to take full advantage of this online training material, which is being made available to you by video and etc., and which will be of practical use for you in the future. And once again, welcome to you all, and I look forward to seeing you again in many more sessions to come, and I wish you a very fruitful learning journey. I thank you. So as we can now start the training, so I will share my screen. Okay, so today we are going to look at seasoning and herbs cultivation. These are some of the most common seasonings which we have here in Trinidad. We have celery, chive, parsley or cilantro, French thyme, English thyme, Spanish thyme. There are all these various 3 types of thyme we have here. The shadow benny or culantro or bandania, then basil, mint, and tarragon. There are a few others which I will also mention during the course of the presentation. Definition of herbs. Herbs are short, soft plants with fragrant or aromatic properties. They can be grouped into two groups, seasoning herbs and medicinal or narcotic herbs. Seasoning herbs, also called culinary herbs, refer to any green leafy part of a plant used for seasoning and enhancing flavors of food, but not used as a main ingredient. These are some of the most common seasoning herbs. We have basil, celery, chive, dill, bay leaf, oregano, parsley, rosemary, shadow benny, and the 3 types of thyme and mint as well. There are many cultural practices. For seasoning herbs, they are noted for their tolerance to shade and can be grown as companion crops with other crops, especially those susceptible to mite or insect attack. Every week, lightly till the soil around the plant, and this allows more water to reach the roots. Chive thrive when soil is well drained and mulched. Mulching reduces the soil water loss due to evaporation, and it also protects the plant from soil-borne diseases that are spread by soil splash. So these are some basic cultural practices. So we see shade is one of the things that seasonings adhere to. They tolerate a lot of shade, and even though you must have your 6 hours of sunlight, seasonings can be grown in the shade as well. Containers for planting the seasonings now. Container planting or trough culture is recommended for growing seasoning or herbs in the home. Almost any container can be used for planting these herbs. We have some examples such as crates, tins, oil drums, barrels, buckets, flower pots, troughs, or grow boxes. We have already discussed grow boxes in the last module. So I will look at it again at the end of this presentation, where I will indicate how you can do automated watering systems in the grow box when you have seasonings grown there, okay? These are a few of the containers which people use, you know. We see these are pots, plastic pots used on here. This is probably a big barrel that they cut the barrels, and then they put the plants into them. Then you could have these bags, these plastic bags. You have PVC as well. Some people design different ways of setting up their PVC to grow these seasonings, and baskets. So you see baskets are also used. The spacing now for planting.
Sorry.
Okay.
We have a question from Yolanda.
Yes, good afternoon, Yolanda. Yes, Yolanda.
Are you hearing me now?
I can hear clearly.
Okay, I find that some of these plants start to get very bushy and they get too big for the containers.
Mm-hmm.
So the plants started getting really big and bushy, so I put it in the ground. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, if you want it properly controlled, you can transfer the plant to a larger pot or a larger, maybe a trough or so. But by putting it into the ground, it will get out of control, and it might take up all the space in the yard. So when you're looking for controlled growth of seasonings, you usually put it in a container. So the best way when it gets bushy, transfer the plant into a larger container or a trough. So I think it will be more controlled that way, right?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah. You want it to be controlled, and it will still bear as much, you know, as much seasonings as you require. Okay, thanks for the question. We're looking at now recommended spacings for the herbs when you plant in herbs. They can be interplanted with vegetables or ornamentals in the garden. And when planting these seasonings, several of the same types of herb can be used in the same trough, but you must have these recommended spacings, which is shown in the table on the right. So for instance, celery, when the quantities required to supply a family would be 12 to 18 celery stalks, okay? So propagation is done by seedlings. So you usually plant the seedling of the celery, and the spacing of these seedlings should be 8 by 8 inches. So they are planted 8 inches apart when you plant celery seedlings, okay? Similarly, when you have scythe now, if you can plant scythe either by the single stalk or by the bunches. Now, the single scythe would serve, that will serve 18 to 24 single scythe per family. You will have seedlings planted 4 by 4 inches apart, 4 inches apart for each seedling. So the scythe, when you plant in bunches, when you want 6 bunches to supply the family, the seedlings must be planted 8 inches apart. Parsley is planted 8 inches apart and also grown from seedlings. French thyme or oregano, that's the other word for the French thyme. You normally plant 1 to 3 thyme that it will supply a family by supplying 1 to 3 bunches of thyme, and you use propagated cuttings to grow these thyme, and the distance would be 20 to 24 inches apart. English thyme or fine thyme, those are grown from seedlings, and the distance apart you plant them is 8 inches apart. Spanish thyme or pudina is planted 20 to 24 inches apart from cuttings. And lastly, shadow benny or culantro or bandania is planted 6 inches apart, and these are grown from, most people grow it from the base of the plants when you break off the base, and you have the roots, and you can plant it from the base, or you can use it from young plants or seeds. So these are the spacings when you plant in these basic seasonings. Okay. Seasoning planting conditions. Use planting material and spacings recommended for each herb as shown previously in this previous slide. The proper drainage is critical to the survival of the soft-stemmed seasoning shrubs, and generous amounts of well-rotted manure can be incorporated into the poor soils. So you must have well-rotted manure to assist with the supply of nutrients to the soil. Now let's start with planting of scythe. If using shoots as planting material for scythe, you trim the roots to 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch before planting. Also, the top must be removed to about 1 inch above where the last blade separates from the base of the plant, as shown in the diagram on the right. So if you look at the picture on the bottom right corner, you will see how the top of the plant is cut and is placed in the soil. Transplant late in the afternoon and water plants. So that is how scythe is usually grown, right? Scythe produces 6 to 12 clumps of grass-like leaves, and that can be, those scythe prefer full sun. They will tolerate a considerable amount of shade, especially in hot climates. So basically, this is the method we use, okay? I hope people can hear because I'm seeing the internet isn't so, okay. Scythe,
we have another question.
Okay, can you give your name? Najiran? Jenny, this is I'm not hearing you, Jenny. Can you unmute? I'm not hearing you, Jenny. Could you unmute?
Yeah. Hi, you hearing me now?
Yes, yes.
Hi, yes, I am Jenny. Yes, hi. I wanted to find out if by chance you don't go along with the rules that you plant like 8 inches apart or 6 inches apart, what happens there?
Well, these are recommendations because usually you may get
Sometimes
much,
using a small pot. For example, I have a lot of the bandania, right? And I'm using a small,
and you can't have it 8 inches. So therefore you might just use 1 or 2 clumps then in the sieve. But when these are spacings for when you have like grow box and larger areas, right?
Okay. But
When
they
you
will
have
still grow.
Yes, you may use 1 or 2 clumps in the sieve when you have your small pots.
Right.
But given these spacings, these are recommendations for the larger grow box, which is the 30 feet long or the 5 feet by 30 feet grow boxes.
Yeah.
Referring to those scenarios. And then if you want to put them in the yard, just in the plain ground, people would normally try to space it in the ground too, or in grow beds. Grow beds are where you don't have the box, but you just build beds on the soil itself. So you at least try to keep the 6 to 8 inches.
Okay, great. Because I use a lot of small containers, so that's why.
Yes, but containers are fine, but you could probably, I would say, use 2 to 3 in a little pots if you just have a normal 8-inch pot.
Yes. Another question as we in this with pots and so on. What about pepper, like chili pepper and pimento? Would they go with a spacing like 8 inches or so apart?
Well, I would go into the vegetable session in the next module, right?
Okay.
The chili peppers fall under the vegetable category, right? But I will give you the exact spacing when that module comes up.
Okay, no problem.
I'm really dealing with the seasonings, right?
Right. Okay, great. All right. So thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So size are a member of the onion family, and size grow in clumps from a bulb under the ground. You use the leaves, you cut up the leaves when you use it in salads or on potatoes and so on. Of the smaller side bulbs. And there are different varieties of scythe. There's some called garlic scythe, which have leaves and flowers with a strong garlic flavor. Planting of shadow benny, if using the base of the plant, which most people do, because when you buy it in the market, it comes with the base sometimes, you can just remove the base and just transplant it. You can remove the flower stalk and 2/3 of each leaf from the plant before planting. The difference between the shadow benny and the cilantro is that shadow benny, which is culantro, has a stronger and more pungent scent than the cilantro. Cilantro is what you call parsley, which is like a cousin to the culantro. So they refer to it as those alternate names, as well. It should be noted, though, that shadow benny belongs to a botanical family, Apiaceae, and where parsley, dill, fennel, and celery also belong to this botanical family. So the cilantro is what you call parsley, and the is what you call the parsley, which they mention here, and the culantro is what you call the shadow benny. The nutritional value and use of the shadow benny. The leaves of the shadow benny are rich in iron, carotene, riboflavin, and calcium, and are excellent source of vitamin A, B, and C. The herb has medicinal properties, and the leaves of the plant are a good remedy for high blood pressure and epilepsy. In the Caribbean countries, it is called fitweed sometimes because of its anti-convulsant properties, and it is a stimulant and has high anti-inflammatory and analgesic properties. As a matter of fact, the whole plant can be used to cure headache, diarrhea, flu, fever, vomiting, colds, malaria, constipation, and pneumonia. So these are some nutritional values of the shadow benny. planting of parsley, as I said, parsley is the cousin to shadow benny and is also called cilantro. It is a flat leaf, and the Italian parsley grows best with rich, moist soil and light shade. So sometimes they have a type of parsley which it looks like this picture on the right, and it likes rich, moist soil, light shade. Parsley needs to be replanted or molded as they mature, and parsley tends to grow out of the soil and eventually topple over. So you have to they normally tend to get very full and has to be replanted. Parsley or cilantro develops a large taproot and hates being transplanted. However, it is necessary. Once cilantro does get excessive in growth, you can harvest the seeds and called coriander, and that spices up the dishes. So the actual seeds of the parsley is called coriander, and that is also used in as a spice. Parsley is a herb, and it means it is not eaten as food on its own. It's added for flavor. It is added to dishes in fresh salads and so on, and it is mostly used to garnish when you sprinkle it on foods to make it appear more enticing and so. The coriander, which is I said is the seed of the parsley. It is called, the seed is called like a Chinese parsley. It's a soft, fast-growing annual herb. It lives for a year or less, and it is easy to grow from the seed. It grows in warm weather, and the seed grows very fast and is best to plant in cool, sheltered areas. Thyme is another seasoning. Spanish thyme tends to become woody when it is grown. Thyme is an extremely fragrant herb with thin woody stems and small pungent leaves. So it is available both in fresh or dried ways. You can dry them, and I will show you the methods used for drying herbs. And it is found in supermarkets, in the markets when you buy it there. When substituting dry thyme for fresh, you use roughly 1/3 of the volume of the fresh for the dry. So I will also indicate how you can determine what ratio of fresh to dried when you have to use herbs in recipes or so. So it's usually 1 to 1/3, 1 of the fresh to 1/3 of the dry. Herbs are normally added at the beginning of recipes when they're in the dried form. Thyme can be grown from seeds, cuttings, or just by digging the parts of the plant, digging up the parts of the plant that have already grown roots. And when thyme spreads, the branches that touch the ground, they grow roots. And at that point, they are easy to separate. It likes to grow in hot, sunny areas and can tolerate drought a lot. So it has a high tolerance for drought. So these are very hardy seasonings. They last long and they're easy to grow. Oregano is the other name for French thyme. These are easy to propagate from cuttings and then root out they can be rooted out in a cup of water. Oregano can easily be started from seeds, though you can use cuttings from an established plant. Plant seeds or cuttings in well-drained soil. The planting depth, you have to sow the seed 1/4 inch in depth, and thin successful seedlings or set transplants 6 inches apart. So I mentioned about the spacings earlier. So these are you normally sow 1/4 inch deep when you're planting. Space plants 12 inches apart and space the rows 18 to 24 inches apart. So that is for the French time.
Hi, Michelle. We have another question.
Okay, thanks.
Anya?
Yes, good afternoon, Anya. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Anya. Could you unmute that so I could hear? Yeah, I think you're still muted, Anya. You just have to press the mic and it will unmute. Just press the microphone and it will unmute your audio. Well, okay, so, sorry, I'm not hearing, but we'll go ahead and we can ask questions when you get through, right? For for time, we now talking about. I'm not seeing the screen too good. All right, for storing of time now. Fresh and dry thyme are sold and stored differently. So fresh thyme is often purchased by bunches or in sprigs and packaged in plastic containers. The fresh sprigs, they hold up well with refrigeration and should be wrapped lightly in plastic or kept in original plastic containers. When stored properly, fresh thyme will retain freshness and flavor for at least 1 to 2 weeks. The dried thyme now can be stored in airtight containers away from heat and light, and when stored properly, the dried thyme should retain flavor and potency for up to 1 year. So in the picture, we see the thyme, different types of seasonings, how they're stored, and when they're in the dried form, you could have them in these bottles as shown here. So they can be stored in both fresh and dried forms. Basil now, planting of basil. Basil is an annual herb that is most often green in color, and it has a fragrant, sweet smell and peppery taste. Basil leaves are large and somewhat delicate and have a smooth texture marked with a series of veins, and they are the prime part of the plant used in cooking. It is an easy herb to grow at home and a common addition to kitchen gardens. So this is how basil looks in the picture. Growing of basil, you fill pots with good quality potting seed mix, sprinkle liberally the basil seeds and cover with a thin layer of soil. Spritz the soil with a spray bottle every day to keep it moist. And then basil will prefer soil with pH between 6 to 7. So this is quite an alkaline condition, 6 to 7. Ensure the soil is free draining and compost enriched. So as we discussed compost in the last module, you can use compost for planting these seasonings, and it must be free draining. Spacing of the plants, leave 12 inches between the plants and 16 to 24 inches between rows. Remember that some basil can get very tall, so don't plant it next to low-growing vegetables that may end up getting shaded. So this is why sometimes you try not to put the seasonings close to the vegetables, because if it overgrows in the height, it will be shading the vegetables, which will prevent it from further growth. Transplanting now of the seasonings, once seedlings sprout and grow to at least 1.5 inches, we transplant it then into the garden, right, or the grow box. So we look at seedlings up to 1.5 inches and then transplant at that point. Basil likes to grow in hot and dry conditions and does not tolerate cold very much. Basil stops producing oil that gives its flavor once it starts to flower. So you should pick the flowers off as it develops. You should leave 1 or 2 stems to flower without affecting the rest of the plant, so you have some seeds for the next year. So this is the reason for leaving the flowers, so you can have the seeds to grow for further plants. Tarragon. Tarragon is another seasoning grown in Trinidad, and it's easy to grow from cuttings or seedlings, and it appreciates the sun in the morning and afternoon shade. There are lots of farmers, especially in the Cocoyea area, that grow lots of tarragon and other seasonings. And the Cocoyea area is, that is where, if you want to see all types of seasonings, the Cocoyea has that a lot in the area. Mint is another season.
Sorry, Michelle,
Yes.
we have another question. Linda.
Yes, Linda. Yes, good afternoon, Linda.
Yes, hi, good afternoon.
Good
I'm just
afternoon.
inquiring about mint, basil in particular, being infected with leaf miners.
Yes, leaf miner is one of the insect, yes. Now, I have on the slides a little further down all the insecticides that would prevent all these pests, right? So I have a list of the insecticides because in the last module, I know some persons asked questions about what could be used. So I've indicated that in this presentation. So you will be told what could be used for the leaf miner, okay? You will see this a little further down. Okay, thank you, Linda. Thanks very much. Okay, the mint is an easy plant to grow. It prefers a lightly shaded spot with good moist soil, but will grow almost anywhere under any condition. And it grows in a vigorous root system that spreads very fast. Mint is best grown in a pot so it doesn't invade the rest of the garden. And you can grow new mint plants by taking cuttings of the mint runners. Just digging down a little at the edge of a clump of the mint should loosen up a runner that already has roots, and then that can be clipped off and used to grow a new plant. So the runners are what we use to spread the plant and propagate further new plants. Mint is usually one of the best plants for shade, and it is a culinary favorite which grows so fast and easy that if not carefully tended to, it can take over other plants in the garden. For best results, make mint a container plant or pot it before adding it to the garden beds. In the shade, mint can sprawl towards sunlight, so keep it trimmed to prevent it from getting too leggy or from spreading and branching too much. So it is an extremely fast growing plant, and it is the best plant for for shady areas. Rosemary is another seasoning which we have in Trinidad. You take 4-inch cuttings of rosemary from a branch tip and strip the lower foliage and stick it in the potting soil to grow rosemary plants. Cover the plastic and retain humidity as it roots. So by covering with plastic, the moisture is retained so that it will assist in obtaining roots for the plant. So usually you have to monitor the growth of the rosemary in the early stage from the 4-inch cuttings when you use 4-inch cuttings from the branch tips.
Hi,
Rosemary,
Michelle.
yes, can I? Yes,
We have Eastland Haynes.
Eastland.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Eastland.
I have a question on the rosemary. Why
Yeah.
do they, what causes it to start to get brown on the tips and eventually die? I have tried the rosemary plant. I bought maybe about 4, and they all get brown at the tip, and then the whole tree dries up. I don't know I don't know what is the watering like, or what it does not live for too long.
Yeah. Okay, well, the browning of the tips, it could be various reasons for that. Sometimes it could be the excess heat and sunlight causing that. If it is exposed to too much sunlight, you might get these things. If it is also lacking nutrients, the lack of nutrients supplied to the plant causes these things as well. So sometimes when you see these signs happening, it's best sometimes when you can take a little snapshot photo of what's happening, and you can send the photo to someone, to persons who know about these diseases in plants, and they will advise as to what should be done. You can go to the agro shop and they will advise you from the photo what could be lacking in the plant. So you always look for these signs, and that will indicate a lack of nutrients, or could be an excess amount of heat or sun that is hitting the plant and causing it to dry, early stages.
So it prefers shade then, more shady.
Well, as I said, the mint grows the best in shade, right? But the rosemary, well, we will see as we go through the rosemary if the shade is what is advisable, right? So let's go through the rosemary and we'll see what is this.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Eastland. Okay, rosemary is a woody evergreen herb. It grows into a shrub up to a meter or so, and much wider. It grows wide as well. It can be clipped into a hedge or other shapes. It has a very strong smell and narrow leaves and purple flowers. It grows well in hot, dry conditions, and it does not like being overwatered. So overwatering, that is a possibility for the signs where you're getting these symptoms of the browning of the tips. So overwatering may be one of the things. Dill is another seasoning grown in Trinidad. Dill is a feathery herb. It grows up to a meter in height, and it grows easily from the seed, and in hot conditions. It grows, once you have a dill plant, you will have, it will be able to spread widely in the yard because it is easily spread. Okay, so let's look at the next season, aniseed. Aniseed is a small plant related to the fennel and celery family of herbs. It is grown for its seeds, and it has a similar taste to licorice. It is a different plant to the star anise, but aniseed is grown in Trinidad as well, and we use it more as for spice from the seeds that it produces, right? So it's more for the seeds that the aniseed is grown for. The other herb we have is the aloe vera, which is very popular in home gardens. Most home gardens, most people have at least an aloe vera in their yard. And if you want to plant aloe vera, find a very warm location where the plant will receive 8 to 10 hours of light a day. Then cactus potting mix is also used to create a good growing medium. And you use equal parts of soil, sand, and gravel, ensuring the soil does not hold the standing water. So you don't want too much of the soil to absorb too much of moisture. So you try to divide it equally with gravel and sand, so you get a more easier drainage taking place, so water is not retained too much. So you need a bit of drainage by adding gravel and sand. So this is a very popular herb, the aloes. And most people have it in their yards. It's a medicinal herb, as a matter of fact. So it's not really seasoning. This one is a medicinal herb. The bay leaf, this is another popular plant in Trinidad. The leaves, when they are dried from the bay leaf tree, the leaves are used to flavor soups and stews, and the flavor of the leaves gets stronger when they are dried. The bay leaf can grow into a large tree, but it's usually kept in containers and clipped into different shapes. So this is another, this is how the leaf of the bay leaf looks. And this is actually only seasoning where when it is dried, you don't use half of the fresh version. You actually you use twice the amount, because I will explain further. When you have to average the fresh to the dried bay leaf, the fresh bay leaf, one bay leaf fresh would be equivalent to 2 dried bay leaves. So this is the only seasoning where you have to actually double the amount of the dried leaf and not use just a third of the dried version. Okay, these leaves are readily available in the dried form, usually as whole leaves, as shown in the picture. And 1 or 2 leaves will add flavor to soups, stews, and so on. Crumbled or ground bay leaves work very well in seafood and poultry dishes and stuffings. And finally, where we have this last herb, which I will call a medicinal herb, is the stinging nettle. This is a herb which most people don't like to keep in their yard because it causes, itching and rash and so. But many years ago, the older folks would use this as a medicinal herb, and it is known for its medicinal benefits. It has been used for centuries to treat ailments such as muscle and joint pain, eczema, arthritis, gout, and anemia. Nettles have a spinach-like flavor and can be eaten steamed and tossed with dressings or eaten fresh as a salad. But in Trinidad, we have this in abundance, but this is one of the medicinal herbs that is usually used for that purpose. So I've gone through basically all the herbs and seasonings that we have in Trinidad, and we're looking now at the fertilizing of these herbs. We use an organic or water-soluble fertilizer to encourage the growth of these herbs. So we get organic plant fertilizers that are water-soluble, and while any fertilizer will work, mixes with fish oil or seaweed tend to work better, and in fact these are better for herbs. Avoid liquid fertilizers if you can, and they tend to keep nutrients around longer than necessary, which can cause excess growth once the herbs are planted. So as you see here, the seaweed tends to work best for herbs. There's the seaweed that is very popular that comes up on the coastline, and so when in the dried form, when you dry these seaweeds, they can be used as fertilizers. So the sargassum seaweed is what it is called, and they have a lot of research being done on that, where they dry the sargassum seaweed, and that is used as fertilizers. From fertilized and unfertilized plants, you could see the difference where you have the taller plants growing as for the fertilized ones. After transplanting seasonings, we should apply 1 teaspoon of a complete NPK fertilizer, that is nitrogen, potassium, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, NPK, and we use it in the ratio 12-24-12 at the base of each plant to encourage root growth. After that, we continue fertilizing every 10 to 15 days with a granular NPK fertilizer of 20-20-20 ratio, using 1 to 3 teaspoons per plant. Alternatively, a foliar fertilizer can be used weekly in a 20-10-10 ratio at a rate of 1 teaspoon to 1 gallon of water. So foliar fertilizers, you can make the mixture on your own with a teaspoon of the NPK to 1 gallon of water. So this is a foliar method you can use. Now, a 1/4 gallon of solution is enough to fertilize the 10 plants. So this is the amount you can estimate. If you have 10 plants, you need at least a 1/4 gallon of this solution that you will be making. So these are some ratios of the NPK fertilizers, which I have now explained.
Hi, Michelle. We have a question.
Yes, good afternoon.
Marlene?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Marlene.
I know that you're dealing with herbs this afternoon, but you mentioned sargassum, and I'm particularly interested to find out how do we turn this sargassum that is more or less corn, how do we turn it into something profitable for our plants? I mean, it is coming in plentiful on the shores.
Yes.
Especially, I would really love to get some more information on that. So I'm just putting in, that request from now, please. Thank you.
Yes, I will certainly look into it and bring it up in the next few modules which will come up, and I will deal with how you do the drying of the sargassum, because a lot of research has been done by the universities and many some farmers, some actually in Tobago, I know, do drying of sargassum seaweed, and there are lots of places that have been producing the dry seaweed and bagging it so to give to farmers for fertilizer. So I will definitely look into that and have discuss it further in the further modules which will be coming up. Okay, thanks for the question, Marlene. Okay, pest and disease control. Now, we have the, because of the strong aroma that seasoning has, that repels most insect pests. So that is one advantage of the seasonings, the strong pungent smell, it repels the insects. Now, a good crop management program will control most diseases in the home garden, and this involves the prompt removal of diseased plants. 2, the regular watering of plants, and this strengthens the plant's natural resistance to the disease. 3, the destruction of crop residues, and 4, crop rotation. So for these 4 methods of crop management, this controls disease in the garden, and as you the picture where you have this ladybug on the leaf, I put this for the purpose of showing that this is actually one of the main pest control measures for the mealybug, because I know in the last module someone asked about the mealybug, how it could be controlled. And this ladybug is actually what is the control for the mealybug, which is the white thing which is on plants that destroys crops. So these bugs can be obtained from various stations. You know, you can get it in research station, and when you get these ladybugs, you use it to control the mealybug disease. So basically, crop management, this is what you use to control pests and disease in the garden. Now, insecticides is what controls the insect pests. Agricultural insecticides useful for destruction of ants, termites, ticks, and fleas. I said I would give you the names of the best insecticides, and these are the main ones that are used and recommended in Trinidad right now. The best one for the ants, batchaks, termites, ticks, fleas are Regent 200 SC, and you can use that or equal and approved. So any other insecticide that is equal and approved in its the way it kills the insects, you can also use anything else. The other type is the hero insecticide. That is excellent for destruction of ants and fleas and so on. The Vapcomic insecticide is another name which you can use or equal and approved. The Taro ant killer, that is also recommended or equal and approved. Movento 15 OD insecticide, or equal and approved. That is very effective in destruction of insects. And the Bemisan 1.8 ME plus, or equal and approved, is excellent for destroying insects. So I've listed basically these are the best insecticides for crops that grow in the home garden. Okay. Harvesting of herbs, right? Well, the best herbs are best harvested just before the first flowers open and when the buds are full. Gather these herbs in the morning just after the dew has evaporated, and you rinse them in cool water and shake gently to remove the moisture. So we do not rub the moisture off by drying it, as this could bruise the leaves of the herbs. Discard the leaves with spots or deformities. So harvesting of herbs is a very delicate process, and we must just do it, rinse it in cool water and shake gently to remove the excess moisture. Harvesting of chive, celery, and parsley. We harvest mature leaves by cutting them with a sharp knife. And chive, celery, and parsley can be harvested by cutting 1 inch above the area where the blades come off the plant. So at least 3 leaves should be left on the chive plant for growth to continue. So when we cut in the chive, we try to leave back 3 leaves so that you still have a continuation of growth taking place. Harvesting shadow benny. Shadow benny leaves can be harvested from the main stem by cutting 2/3 off from each leaf. The thyme is harvested by picking off individual leaves or by breaking off pieces of stem 6 to 8 inches long with leaves and side shoots. Storing of herbs now. After harvesting, we would need to store them. So we have to be able to store herbs when they are fresh as well as when they are dried. Dried herbs should be stored in the sealed jars in a cool, dark, and dry cabinet. Fresh herbs will last longest if they are washed, carefully dried, gently wrapped in paper towels and sealed in a zip top bag and stored in a refrigerator. So I will describe how drying of herbs is done. So because you see how dry herbs must be stored in steel jars. So I will describe how the drying is done. But let's first look at the storing of the fresh herbs. The planting of, when you have the planting of the fresh herbs, you trim the base of the stems with a scissors or a knife, and you fill a jar about a third with cold water. Place the cut stems into the water. Cover the jar with a plastic bag, as in the picture shown on the right, and secure with a rubber band at the base of the jar to enclose the bag around the jar, and place the planted herb in the fridge or leave it out in the countertop depending on the herb. So this is what storing of the fresh herb is about. So the fresh herb, when it is trimmed from the base of the stem, we trim it with a scissors or a knife. You put it into a jar, a third full or half full with water. So this is how fresh herb is stored. Then the towel method of storing it now on the right side, where you have to wrap the herb in a damp paper towel and put the wrapped herbs in a Ziploc bag. Place the herb in the fridge, and this is the towel method of storing it now. So it is shown in the picture here, where it is put in a Ziploc bag and placed in the refrigerator. So we have the two methods of the fresh storage of fresh herbs, the bottle method and the paper towel method. The drying of the herbs now, which I explained, I will describe how you do that. The drying, a dehydrator can be used with all types of herbs to dry them, especially for like basil, oregano, tarragon, lemon balm, or mint. These herbs have high moisture content, and they often mold if they are not dried quickly in a dehydrator or some other method. As you prepare herb leaves for the dehydrator, begin by removing any long stems and damaged or bruised leaves. It's fine to leave a bit of stem near the leaves as they go into the dehydrator. And after dehydration is complete, you can separate the leaves from the bits of stem before storing. So dehydration using this method is done as shown here in the diagram. So you place the different types of herbs in a dehydrator, and you usually remove long stems and damaged or bruised leaves before placing into the dehydrator. And as I was talking about the substituting dried herbs for fresh, these are the ratios when you have to make substitutions. If you need fresh herbs, but you only have dried ones, you can replace the fresh ones with 1/3 of as much of the dried equivalent herb. So in other words, when using most herbs, the ratio is 1 fresh to 1/3 of the dried, because the dried form is much more concentrated and you only need 1/3 of the amount that of it when that is fresh. So one part of fresh seasoning or herb to 1/3, one whole of fresh to 1/3 of dried. In the other case now with bay leaves, that is the only instance where we don't use less, we use more of the dried. So bay leaves is the exception, and we usually use like 1 fresh bay leaf to 2 dried bay leaves, because they lose much of the flavor when it is dried. So we now finish the first part of the training. We would now go to an intermission, and in the second half we will be a little more technical. We will look at the aspect of water, automated watering systems. So I will show you how you can put your pipes in the grow box. We look at a bit of the automated irrigation watering system for the seasonings in the garden. So we can now go for a 5-minute intermission, and we should be able to be back by about 6:05. So everybody can take a break now, and we'll be back in 5 minutes for the second half of the session.
Michelle, we just have one question before you go.
Sure.
Alison?
Yes, good afternoon, Alison. Could you unmute? I think that you need to unmute the, right. Thank you.
I want to know if you can use your oven to dry herbs.
I would say once you place it in the in a tray that is, you know, suitable for that, you can place it in a tray and cover, you know, cover the top so that you don't get, you know, anything. You always try to have it in a proper container when you place it in the oven, you know. So once you have a proper tray, and I think that should be sufficient at the home.
So can you put foil over it if you don't have a cover?
Well, I should think, yes. But what, remember, never use microwaves for these things. That is definitely out of the question. But if you have ovens, you can use that as a a desiccator for drying. That should be fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as I said, we will come back at 6:05. So we will discuss a little more of the technical aspects now of watering the seasonings in the garden. Okay, thank you, everyone. We will be back in 5 minutes. Okay then, welcome back. We are in the second half of the training, and this will be a little more technical than the first half. We are looking at the irrigation of these seasons now and the systems that could be used, and we can automate the watering system using a timer, and I'll describe that. This picture shows a simple system of watering. This is the simple buckets, and we put the fertilizers and so on, the liquid fertilizers in the water. So this is, you may see it with a greenish coloration, and this is used to water the plants. And we have to do this at least once a day, every day, because plants usually have more than 80% of the weight consists of water in plants. So it is consistent and adequate watering is essential to keep the plant healthy.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello?
Sorry, we had a question from before, just before you get any further.
Sure, okay.
Tessa? She dropped off, sorry.
Sure, okay, no problem. So when a plant begins to wilt, it means that it has started, that means that it's already stopped growing. So wilting is a very bad sign, which shows that it is, the plant is no longer growing, and it is, you have to, you know, always keep watering these plants. Plants usually require water once a day, and especially in the hot, the very dry seasons. And the aim is to provide uniform water at all times to encourage uniform growth. So now let us look at the definition of what is automated watering systems. Automated watering systems using a method called Metlider consists of 3 steps. The Metlider method is, this is what is used in all agriculture methods for automated watering. You provide PVC pipes that you drill and install these on the soil beds or on the grow boxes. Secondly, you connect the PVC watering pipes to a water source and balance the flow between the beds and the boxes. And then thirdly, you use a hose timer and tie this into the sprinkler or drip irrigation system to turn the water on and off automatically. So the pictures here, you see the 4 types of timers. Any one of these could be used. And this is what is connected to the system so that you can actually time how long you want your plants to be watered. So that, because this is on a daily basis, that certain quantity of water must be supplied each day for the crop to propagate. Construction of the watering pipe system. The material needed for watering pipe assembly for one 18-inch by 30-inch grow bed, which is just 1 row of the grow box, because a grow box, remember, is the standard is 5 feet by 30 feet, right? So the standard, we be using a 1 row, which would be a 18-inch in width, and twice the quantity will be required for a standard 5 foot by 30 foot. 3 10 lengths of 3/4 PVC pipe, 200 PSI. These are the materials used to build this water pipe system. 3 lengths of PVC, then 2 3/4 inch threaded male couplings, 2 3/4 slip couplings, 1 3/4 threaded female cap, 5 2 by 4 by 5 inch blocks of wood to support the watering pipe. So this will support the pipe down the middle of the trough. Then 12 1.5 finishing nails, PVC glue and Teflon tape, And these are basically the materials used for the pipe system in the grow box. The threaded couplings allow rotation of the pipes to line up perfectly from one pipe section to the next. So that is what the couplings allow, rotation of the pipes. Now the tools for the construction of the water pipe assembly. This is a diagram of how you set up the pipe assembly using a jig for marking the pipe. So you have this pencil on this wooden jig, and you draw a line straight down the PVC pipe. So you get a perfectly straight line. You carry that along the full 10-foot length pipe. So when that is marked in pencil, then you drill and use the number 57 drill bits, which is a 1 16-inch size, that is a little smaller than a 1/16 inch diameter. Then you use a hammer and then a saw to cut the wooden blocks, and a hacksaw for cutting the PVC. The procedure now to construct the pipe assembly. Well, you have a PVC pipe in this, as shown in the diagram, and you draw the pencil lines down the middle at the 0-degree point, as well as 45-degree angle on either side of the 0. So you draw these 3 lines straight down the 10-foot pipe at those 3 points. So at a 45-degree angle. So after drawing those lines, the next step is to mark the pipe at 4-inch intervals along the length of the pipe. So at every 4 inches apart on the pencil lines, you have to mark those points, because those points you will have to then drill holes at those points. And we keep 2 inches from the edge though of the pipe. So you drill it every 4 inches until the end of the 10-foot length. So the last mark would be 118 inches from the end of the pipe. So those points that are marked will then be drilled to make holes in the pipe, and that will serve as the sprinklers or for the drip water to drip out from. Using the electric drill press, or that is with a number 57 bit, you drill holes, and then in each 10-foot pipe, you will have 90 holes. So 90 holes will be found in each 10-foot pipe length. You repeat for each section of the pipe, and since the diameter of the drill bit is very small, a method of preventing breakage of the drill is that you use a small amount of the bit to protrude from the tip of the drill bit. So that prevents the bit from breaking as the diameter is so small, in the 1/16 of an inch. So after these holes are drilled, you assemble the drilled pipes with couplings now, as shown in the diagram on the right. You join the pipe sections together using 3/4 slip couplings, 2 couplings for 30 feet, and you glue it with PVC glue. Make sure holes on each pipe section line up with the holes on the adjoining pipe sections, and when you glue it together. Attach adapters to the ends of the pipe assembly, and at each end of the completed pipe assembly, you glue a 3/4 inch threaded male adapter. So that is the male adapter at the top, which is shown at the top here of that diagram. And the cap is the female cap at the end, which is at the bottom here. You place that 3/4 threaded female cap at the other end of the pipe assembly. Now the procedure for construction of the water pipe assembly. Well, this is the diagram of the trough on the grow bed. So as we see in this diagram, the open end here is this side, and the closed end is the lower part where what you don't have water coming through the closed end where the cap is. So let us see what you place the pipe assembly on the grow bed or the grow box as shown in the diagram, and you take 5 blocks of the 2 by 4 by 5 inch blocks, and you place them, these brown sections are the blocks, and you place them along the middle of the trough. That is what is used to rest the PVC pipe on. You drive 2 1.5 inch nails into the center of the 2 by 5 edge of the block spaced 1 inch apart. So on the wooden block, you place the 2 1.5 inch nails, one on each side of the PVC, 1 inch apart, so that the PVC would fit snugly between the 2 nails that you will be drilled. 5 blocks must be evenly placed down the center of the 30-foot grow bed. And then you lay the blocks on the edge with the nails facing up across the bed or box. So you would place 5 of these along the 30-foot length of the grow box. Right, so in a 5-foot grow box, you lay each of the 2 pipe assemblies 6 inches from the inside edge of the grow box. So in other words, this will be just 1 length of pipe, and you will place a second length of pipe if you have a 5-foot width grow box. So every 5-foot by 30-foot grow box will contain 2 rows of these pipes. Now lay the pipe so that the end with the 3/4 threaded cap is away from the water source. So the water source is nearer to the side that has the male threaded coupling. Okay, so let's see the next section, procedure for connecting the garden hose to the water source. Firstly, you install the 3/4 inch drip irrigation adapter or elbow. That you will install that on the side that has the male adapter. Purchase a 3/4 drip irrigation straight elbow adapter, which has a hose connector on one side and a threaded PVC pipe connector on the other side. So this is what you're connecting to the open-ended pipe end. That is where the male adapter is, and you connect the hose, that hose section on that end. Then you can buy adapters or elbows in PVC or brass. The adapter shown in this diagram is a 3/4 inch FBT by FHT straight adapter. So you can either use the straight ones or the elbows. The elbows would be if you want another line, to have it double instead of a single, The procedure for connecting the hose to the water continued. Next you install a shut-off valve, and you add the shut-off valve between the PVC adapter and the watering hose, so you can easily turn on and off the water without running to the faucet. Then attach the hose between the shut-off valve and the water faucet. Add the Y-connect shut-off valve and water 2 grow beds or 2 grow boxes at once. Adjust the valves to balance the water flow between the grow beds or the grow boxes. So these valves must be adjusted to balance the flow of water. Now connecting the water source with the PVC pipe. So the threaded T connection is where you will be connecting the PVC pipe to the water source. So this is the 30-foot pipe which we had set up with the wooden blocks. And these blue lines show you how the sprinklers operate. It would be 3 holes, remember, at 45 degrees, allowing these water sprinklers to operate. And then you have a threaded T connection here, which is what we will discuss now. Plumb and connect the water to each grow bed and grow box. To do this, you dig trenches in the soil and install the 3/4 threaded T connections. The main water line to the grow bed, as illustrated on this diagram, is the 3/4 40 PVC pipe. And however, you may need a larger line depending on the size of the garden and your water pressure. So they use a Schedule 40 PVC pipe in this case. Then install a quick shut-off valve at the end of the grow bed or grow box by the water source. So as we see, this red part is the shut-off valve, which is used to turn on and off the water through the pipe. Using plastic pipe fittings, plumb the water source 2 inches above the end of the bed. And install a half-threaded plastic L. So this is the L here. And it comes down here. The threaded portion should be female threads. So it comes down here to the T section. Then cover the trenches after the main line and risers are connected and glued in place, and cover the trenches with soil. Connect the drilled pipes by using mate the threaded couplings of the drilled pipe with the threaded L. And when you completed, you normally have it lined up in the grow boxes that you would have built in the garden. You would have these pipes laid out on the grow boxes. Now, after laying the pipes, you can attach a timer like this one to time when the water must be supplied to water the crops. Water can be automatically turned on and off using the garden hose timer like this one, and connect the timer between the hose faucet and the garden hose. So this is how it is connected between the hose faucet and the garden hose. Look for a timer that allows you to control duration and frequency. You can easily find a timer with up to 3 parts, which will allow you to create watering zones in the garden. Follow the manufacturer's directions to program the timer. Automated watering process. You have automated sprinkler systems that which you may be able to add additional sprinkler valves to create 1 or more zones in the garden. The valves connected to the timer, you can automatically control the duration and frequency of watering, and the water pressure will dictate how many grow beds or grow boxes can be watered at one time. From the scale drawing plan of your grow beds, that will allow you to calculate how much pipe and number of kinds of fittings you will need to automate the watering assembly. When we have these watering systems, we also can attach the hydroponic fertigation systems, where you can put chemicals into the water, and with these chemicals shown here in various quantities, and when you add the fertilizer in the water and have it automated with the timer, you call it fertigation. That is the fertigation system. So for crops like celery, chive, and parsley, we can set up a sort of hydroponic system where you have pH of soil with, well, a pH of the water for the irrigation of 5.8 to 6.5 pH, and a ppm of 1200 to 1460 parts per million. So the 5 fertilizing chemicals here listed, these are used in these quantities for celery, chive, and parsley. So we have the amount of grams per 100 liters, which is for these chemicals, which you must add to the water. So the water, per every 100 liters of water, we use these 90 grams of the 10-13-32, 36 grams of the magnesium sulfate, 4 grams iron chelate, 27 of potassium nitrate, and 72 of the calcium nitrate. So the process you use is fill the reservoir until half full, which means the tank that you are storing the water for the irrigation. Fill the tank half full and then mix each of these nutrients separately until dissolved in a small container before pouring it into the tank. Now, after that, then you fill the reservoir with water up to 3/4 way. Then check the parts per million and the pH, and make sure those values match these values listed in the table. Then you make adjustments to water if necessary, and this is how you fertilize the seasonings using a hydroponic method of fertigation. These are just the conversions of how you convert liters to gallons. These are the conversions for the teaspoons to grams or milliliters. Right, so the ppm can be increased by 200 during very rainy conditions. So you will have to increase your ppm by 200 during rainy season, especially. So these are the recommended values. So we look at shadow benny now. Shadow benny, as well as cabbage, but we're looking at seasonings. Shadow benny can be fertigated using these chemicals as well in these proportions. So the chemicals for the shadow benny we would use here are 10, 13, 32, 100 grams per 100 liter, magnesium sulfate, 40 grams per 100 liter, iron chelate, 4 grams per 100 liter, potassium nitrate, 30 grams per 100 liter, and calcium nitrate, 80 grams per 100 liter. In this case, we fill the tank or reservoir until half full. Then you mix the nutrients separately until dissolved in small containers before pouring it into the tank. Then after you fill the reservoir 3/4 way full with water, and then check your ppm and pH to match the readings shown in this table. make the adjustments to water if necessary. And you also increase the ppm by 200 during rainy season, when it is very rainy weather. So we have a system of adding chemicals for proper fertigation, and that is basically all what we have discussed for the watering systems for seasonings and herbs. And anyone that has any questions regarding that, please feel free, and that will be all we have to discuss for today's session. So that's it for today's session, and I thank you for attending, and we look forward to seeing you for the next module 3 in 2 weeks. So anyone has, please feel free to ask any questions before we go, as the session has come to an end. And we have here, yes.
We have Marlene.
Again, pleasant good evening. I want to say a special thank you to Public Service Credit Union. The first module I wasn't able to follow because I was actually enrolled in a similar course.
Okay.
And I must say now that I have missed out a wealth of information because the presentation, Misha, it is awesome on point. I'm saying this and my pause are raising. The quality, the level of this presentation, and wow, if we could have even, actually done a physical, would have been excellent. So I want to give you all commendation, both Public Service Credit Union, all those involved.
I understand.
Special thanks.
I understand that some requests. I thank you so much for your comments, Marlene, and I really appreciate it. I really thank you for that. And I know there have been requests for some practicals, so I will definitely look into that, because there are many farmers who do crops, private farmers who can really demonstrate on hands-on how these things are done. And I have a lot of contacts that I can put, make some requests to have some practicals shown to you all. And this, I will definitely look into it. And I know it will be very interesting. And we will also will practice the protocols for the COVID. And we will do it in groups of 10 as the need arises. And that it will definitely be beneficial to see the practical aspect. So I will look into it, Marlene, and I agree with you. And we certainly will consider it. So I look forward to seeing all of you next session in 2 weeks. And you can see the link, or you will be emailed a link to register and so on. So that would have been done already for the next module. And any further questions, you can email me at this contact at michelle.sharp@pscutt.com. Or you can call any of these branches of the PSCU, and you can pose any questions that you or requests which you would like concerning the trainings, right? So thank you so much, everyone, for attending.
Michelle?
Yes.
Hi, we have 2 more questions.
Okay.
Shanti?
Yes. Yes, good afternoon, Shanti. Yeah. Pleasant good evening. You have your mic muted. You just have to press the microphone. Just press the microphone at the bottom of your screen.
Okay, next we have
Yes.
Akila.
She got through.
Oh,
She
sorry.
Shanti? Yes, Shanti.
Yes. Well, I missed the first session. This has really been a good session.
Thank you.
But Yes. I just started because of the COVID, but I had so much problems in planting. I got a lot of advice, you know, for the pests and all of that. And something I've really been having a lot of problems with. I've never really seen grasshoppers, but I've been having so much grasshoppers, you know. You know, I never knew that they would, you know, be eating out, you know, the plants and the herbs.
Well, the list of chemicals, the insecticides that I listed, I gave at least 5 or 6 names.
Yes,
those are the recommended ones that for ants, grasshoppers, any insects, right?
Okay. So I didn't hear anything about grasshoppers, so I thought it was just me having that problem.
Well, insects on the whole, they are effective for all insects.
Okay.
And even more, what you call them, crickets and so on, all those things.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
And useful. Remember, sometimes there are some useful insects too, so we have to be careful not to kill the useful ones.
Okay.
Those are useful, and even the dragonfly, those are useful insects.
Yes, I saw those around too. I really saw them around.
Yes, some of them actually are helpful for and prevent other destructive ones.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have Akila.
Okay, hello Akila. Good afternoon. Yes.
Wonderful presentation. I just wanted to find out if it is you all have the recordings available, because I came in probably, I don't know, at a kind of weird time. I didn't catch the first part, so you know.
Yes, definitely all recordings are available. As time goes, we will be determining what will be sent or what will be shared. That will be decided by the PSCU. So that will be determined in due course. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, Akila. Thank you, Akila. Thank you for attending, everybody. And I look forward to seeing all of you again. And I will be always happy to share information with you. And at every session, we will give you the agriculture aspect and also technical aspects as well. So you will be given the 2 versions, the cultivation as well as the technical part of it, the structures. So we look forward to seeing you again next time. So goodbye everyone, and till next time.